Morning, everybody. Dave Becker here with BeckerArt, and it's a Sunday morning. Happy Sunday morning. Cheers. No, it's not beer, it's my coffee mug. Yes, I do a Thursday night paint along, but this is not a paint along, this is just a demonstration. A student asked me yesterday in class and asked me to show them how to do pine trees. Pine trees with snow on them. And so it's one of my favorite things and actually pretty simple to do. And so let me just go over real quickly how to do that. And so I'm going to start. And again, these videos are not, I don't let anybody know. I just kind of come in here on Sunday mornings, different times. I don't know exactly what time I'm going to start a lot of times. And so just a little bit of impromptu painting demo. And a lot of times I started with doing it outside, but since it's getting cold outside and I just have to do it really quickly. I'll go out this winter also, but just so and so. Sometimes I'll be inside, sometimes I'll be outside. And so here we go. And so what I'm going to do is, here you see the scene on the side here, and I'm going to do a scene where the sun is just, an evening sun. I like doing drama on my work, in my work. And so I'm just going to be here wetting the surface first. And let me just go to Facebook real quick and see if there is anybody watching. And little by little, a lot of you may come on. And let me just check to make sure it's running. All right, so there we go. So if you have any questions, please just chat away, and I will answer any questions if I see some questions being asked. And so what I'm going to do is work my thing that I normally do is light to dark. I always start with light to dark. And so what does that mean? That means the background usually, because that's where the sun here is coming down. It's very far in the distance. I'm going to make the sun right in this area. So I'm just going to wet through everything, because the trees are going to be dark and the snow on the trees are going to be all dark also. So I'm going to try to finish this in about half an hour. I'm going to try to do it quickly, just so that you guys are not spending all Sunday morning watching. I'm just going to try to put this really light right there. And I'm going to do the optical scatter here, and so I'm going to go slow first off, and I put in some new paints in my palette that I was running out. And so I also should clean my brushes when I put them away, but I don't usually. And so right over through here is going to be the sun. I'm just going to kind of make it right here, right in the middle. And I know it's a lot of times you should make things off center a little bit, but this would be fine to put it center because there's a little bit more mass on this side than there is on this side. And if you look at my value study, basically the trees and the water, and actually almost a lot of the whole foreground snow is in the middle tones and dark. So I see that as my big dark, and my lights will be the sun and then just flickering through there, through the middle. So let's just put this a little bit nice and warm, and I'm going to put warmth background. And snow scenes, that's one thing you can do, is you can do a warm background and cool foreground, which is really kind of fun. And so I'm going to put a little bit of yellow through here. And right away I'm going to put in the water too. And just put that right through there right away. And again, the first thing you do, I have my 3-step process, which is going to be my newsletter this week. And if you want to get my newsletter, go to my website at BeckerArt and subscribe, and you'll see I'm going to be talking about the 3-step, the BeckerArt 3-step. It's 3 steps in every painting. And the first is always lights. And that pertains to the colors, the light colors. So you kind of establish your colors in the very first step. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm establishing my light colors and going to do all my lights and put those colors into my painting. So see, nice and light. I'm not sure why I'm using such a small brush. And so I'm making my light. My sun is actually showing through and it's going to be reflecting into the water. I'm just going to kind of put this through here. And this morning I started a little bit earlier than I normally do. Usually I watch Sunday morning, my favorite program. And but I told somebody that I'm going to start at 9 today. So I didn't realize that Sunday morning that doesn't stop at 9. It stops at like 9:30. So next time it'll probably be a number more like 9:30. But usually around that time. And sometimes it'll be earlier if I'm going outside. I like to get out there really early and catch those nice scenes with the sun rising. You know, that's always more drama in your work. And so now I'm going to do the background sky too. Take a little violet. You notice there's little clouds up here, and so that's all wet, and so that's how you get your soft edges. And at the same time, since I'm getting my lights, I'm going to do those light colors through everything, because everything at the top of it will be darker, and so just go ahead and put all your lights in over everything. It doesn't need to like go around things. Don't go around objects. This will be the darker sky. And I put a new color in my palette for the winter scenes, and that's Verditer Blue. It's a great violety blue, and I use that mostly for doing snow scenes. It's a great blue for snow, the values and colors of snow. So here again, maybe a little bit more purple in here. You know, it's like early morning, or maybe it's sunrise or sunset. You know, so I'm just going to try to get in there. And there's clouds in the sky, so you can make it grayer. So what do? You make your orangey yellow that you have down here, mix it right into that blue and violet, and just mix it right into there, because that's what's happening in nature. It's the sun, which is warm, will go into those clouds and make it a nice grayer kind of sky. And it's violety. I mean, and also to keep it smooth, just let the water smooth itself out. Now for the pine trees that have snow on it, I'm right now doing the snow, and so it's going to be a little bit darker, so I'm taking violet. Take a little bit darker. Oh, that's a red violet, and so I'll put a little bit of that Verditer Blue into that. And now I'm going to put it through the trees, and this is the color of the snow. This is the color of the snow. Let me put a little bit of that, or blue in there, light blue, horizon blue, which has a little bit of white into it. And now I'm going to wet it as I go along here. And I'm just going to wet my whole foreground now. So I'm wetting as I go along. It's called wetting as you go along. And I'm going to leave my background warm. And see how it's just a little warm in there, and I'm just coming through the front. Hey Susan, good morning. And so here we go. Just put a little bit of this purpley blue in the foreground. I'm gonna make it a little bit more blue as I come forward, and that's peacock blue. Oh my gosh, look at how that is so blue. And you know, I'm gonna do a little bit more of my yellow purple composition, and when it comes to the color scheme, I'm going more with purpley blue, and it's gonna get bluer as you come forward and more warm as you stay back. And I'm just going through here, wetting everything as I go along. And I'm going to only keep the center here kind of where I keep white of the paper. Everything else is going to have a little bit of a value to it. And that way I push my light to be right down the center. And that's what's so neat about this picture, is how the sun is right there. And it's really bleeding right through the middle here. And we'll keep that background warm. Let's put a little bit more warmth through here to the background. And there's a little bit of a hill back here. We'll keep that warm. This is brilliant orange. I was going to fill up some, as you can see, I filled up my palette again. Every once in a while I have to do that. But with Holbein paints, you never waste anything. So it's nice because it doesn't dry up on you. It doesn't dry as a hard clump. And so I just fill up every once in a while because it stays so moist. And so here I'm going to put a little orange through here, side of the hill. I'm going to make a little bit of the warmth, and it separates the warmth from the cool, you know, and I'm doing it wet in the wet, and so it just gradually goes into the blue, and see how it just is a soft edge, and because everything's wet, and I want it to be that way. I want it to be wet. And now the snow, this is the tree, but I'm doing the snow on the tree, and so Carol had asked me in my class, how do you do the snow on a tree? And you can do this like blue first and then put masking fluid over it and then do your darks. I'm going to negative paint the dark part of the tree on top of that. And you know, we talk about white snow, right? But rarely is the snow totally white in your painting. You know, it has to be, you got to figure it out. But on something like this, there is no white snow. It's just all in shadow. So this is all snow that's in shadow. So it's not white. It's going to be a light blue, and so that's what I'm doing right now. And even the water will be down here. It looks like in the photo, it's more warm, and it's reflecting this warmth through there. That's cool. So you can put a little bit of that in there. Just throw a little bit of that into the mix. And then just make this darker blue, maybe an ultramarine and verditer blue, because verditer blue is more of a purple blue, which is kind of beautiful for snow. And so I'm just going to make that down here, go right into the water. Anytime I hit the water scene, part of the scene, I make my brush go back and forth horizontally. That way it lays the water flat and doesn't make it look like it's on an angle. So whenever you're like using your brush and painting the water, go horizontal brush strokes. It's a really good way of making your water go straight and level. And so then here I'm going to go again with ultramarine blue, verditer. And then you notice I still hate these palettes because I can never switch around, and I would have loved to put verditer where the horizon blue is, but keep the horizon blue, but maybe take one out. But you can't do that with these palettes because it's all just things. So I just separate it, I put them together in one little well there. So we'll see how that works. And so we're going to go ultramarine blue, verditer, back and forth horizontally in the water. And you notice how these little marks in there. Just want to keep it. And again, this is still it's basically I'm a middle tone, so it's kind of like my second step. The first step again was the lights, and that was all already done. And so I'm kind of combining both of them together, where I'm doing the light and the middle tones, the second step, together, because the second step is the large middle tone and darks. And so the steps don't have to be like stop and then do that and let it dry. Sometimes it's all together, but it is always a three-step process. I call it the Becker three-step. Again, that's going to be in my newsletter this week. I'm going to do a little video on that. And because it's really important, that's the way I paint. I paint the BeckerArt three-step. And it sounds like a dance, but it is kind of a dance of how to do the painting. Now I'm looking at my photo here, and it's a lot more violet than this, and this is more blue, but you decide on how violet you want it. And let me just put a little bit more violet into I kind of like that violet look. And everybody knows me in my classes, I love violet. My favorite color, lavender, violet, purple. So I'm going to put a little bit more of that into the snow, maybe a little bit into the ground here. And while it's wet, you can do that. And again, notice my brushwork, how I'm going back and forth. All right, put a little bit in here. And so now it is still wet. Boy, I should probably dry it. But while that's drying a little bit, let me just show you something about the pine trees. And I got this sheet of paper. And what I wanted to show Carol this yesterday in class was when you're doing the pine trees, what you want to do is you take your round brush, and the bristles on a round brush are different lengths. The ones in the middle are longer, and they go through the middle, right? They're right through the middle. They're longer, and then there's some on the side that are shorter. And so if you bend your brush, and let me see if I can show you this. If you bend your brush to the side like this, you're using the bottom bristles, the shorter bristles, and you can capture a really neat pine tree. And so I'm going to take some quinacridone gold, some Prussian blue. Look at a lot of that. And so I'm going to take Prussian blue, and it makes a nice dark green. They do make a really nice dark green. I just don't tend to buy greens. I always make my greens with quinacridone gold and all the blues. But if you take your brush sideways and here's a point, right? You push the point, and you push the point of the paper, and you use the back bristles to make the pine needles look like pine needles. So see how I'm just making it look like a pine needle by pushing away the front and using the back needles to make the pine needles, the branches of the pine tree. And so it's a very simple process. You just have to practice this. Don't practice on your painting. Practice on a sheet of paper that you want to try, that is maybe scrapped, an old painting that didn't work out, the back, or even on that painting. If it didn't work out, the painting. And not every painting turns out. Mine also. I mean, I do 2 paintings every Thursday, and usually the one in the morning or in class is a little bit not as good as the one that I do the second time, because you're learning things. Each time you do a painting, you learn something. And now I'm talking about, this is just the pine tree. Now how about the snow on there? Well, the snow will be put on in your drawing, and then you do that first, like I'm doing here. And you'll see when I'm done, that when this is dry, I'm going to go back in here and go around the snow. And then I'm also going to maybe put, you could put masking fluid on this when it dries and then put your snow on there. Or you just use white paint. White paint, maybe probably with blue, and you just put it on there opaque. And one thing, again, pine needles, bend your brush, bend the tip into the paper, and then just push. There you go, see? And then that's as a nice pine tree. And then, of course, there's different darks and lights, you know, and there's different colors. And so you, underneath the branches, you can go darker with the branches underneath, you know, underneath here. So this is just a great way of doing pine tree. And of course, there are many different species of pine tree. You know, species, I'm not sure if you call it species or just types of pine trees. So you have to look at that, and that's the drawing part, which is number one. Drawing is always the first thing you have to look at, because these trees in the photo are not what I drew. I drew more of a blue spruce, and these are more, I'm not sure what kind of tree that is, but, and these are on the, back here, a rounder. I'm going to make them pointy. I just don't like the round pine tree. I think I want to do that, but that's a personal choice, so you do whatever you want. So there's the little showing you how to do it with the round brush. Now you can use other brushes too to do that if they're round, and if you want to use a flat brush to do something like that, it's not going to work as good because the flat brush has all the bristles on it all the way. They're all the same size, all the same length. So on this one, you'd actually have to draw it. You know, you could use this one too by just going straight down, because the front of the brush is very straight and very thin, and so I have to actually draw each one of those bristles or pine needle on the branches. So you can do it that way, but it's a whole different way of doing it. So know your brush work and know how to use your brush by just practicing with it and trying different things. So this is a flat brush, and I get the pine needles that way, and maybe combine them both. So maybe there's see, I'm just poking straight down with this one to get the pine needles, because I'm actually doing each individual pine needle itself. So again, each brush gives you a different way of doing pine trees. And now with the holiday season, you know, a lot of us do the pine tree, the Christmas tree. So, you know, there's a good way of doing it. All right. And so let's see if I wasted enough time to let that dry. Yeah, I'm gonna get my heat gun. It's actually a stripper, but if you go far enough away, I'm gonna use this for shrink wrapping my paintings, but I don't have a hairdryer right in here. But if you go far enough away, it can still heat up your paper and dry it a little bit. And normally I don't like to ever use a hairdryer, but in this purpose where I need to get going, I will do that. Because why don't I like using a hairdryer or a power stripper is that it stops the progression of what you want happen, is having soft edges. A lot of times it pushes and stops it before it blends everything really nicely together. So look at, there's no hard edges except for where it's dry, and it's going to make a really, really nice soft edge, smooth edge when you work it wet into wet. So that's good enough. And now let's go from background to foreground. I'm going to get my background here, the sun, and right where the sun is, I'm going to go in there with a nice bright orange, and I'm just going to draw the pine trees because it's going to be really orangey right where the sun is, and then it'll right away go to whatever it is back there. So I'm going to just do a little pine tree back here, the look of a pine tree. Let's see, I'm just going to go in here. And then go right to more of a, I'm going to go a warm green. So I'm mixing that orange with a green and go right into that color. Because these trees are green, right? They're pine trees. And now if they're covered with snow back here, we probably should put a little bit of this blue back there too. And go around the thing, but we can do that afterwards. And I actually back here, I'm probably going to just leave it all together so you really don't see as much back there. It's all blurred together. It's almost like what we were talking about with the last week with the circles of confusion, because when things are out of focus, you don't see exactly what's going on. So that's what's kind of happening back here. You don't really see what's going on, and I can use the background color that I have underneath it to be the snow. So I'm just gonna not paint that part, and there's a color underneath that, right? So maybe the snow on these, I kind of went around it too much, or didn't go around it, the white, and so there I just gonna have to put white paint in, or paint a color. And there's going to be, this is the sun right here, right? And so there'll be shadows on the snow going away from the sun. So there, right there's the sun. Right here's the sun. And then anything right there will be the orange, because it's so bright, it's scattered. And then so we're just going to leave that nice and orangey. Make the tree go right in front of it. And it burns away anything that's there, and then there's going to be shadows going away from that. And so here, the side of the hill will be a little bit shadowed, and again, more orange as it comes to the sun. Okay, a little bit more, and then I'll get to a purpley color, maybe a little bit darker, the edge, anything that's in shadow then. All right, so that's the background basically, and just a really simple background. And then we're just going to keep on coming forward. Now, since the snow is already there, the snow is there, so now we got to paint the dark of the tree. And so I'm going to make the ones that are foreground a little bit darker than what we had here. That's a little bit lighter, and as I come forward, it's going to get nice and dark. So here, hey guys, thanks for stopping by this morning. Cheers onto a cup of coffee in my mug, my beer mug. keeps the coffee nice and warm. And I like to have not those small cups of coffee in the morning. I need to have a little bit more than than a small little cup. And so now we're going in here. I'm getting my shadow onto the snow. And Verditer Blue, for everybody who just stopped by, I just added Verditer Blue to my palette for the winter. It's like my winter palette consists of Verditer Blue, which I normally don't use in the summer because I use ultramarine and peacock and horizon blue mostly in the summer, but in the winter I want a purple blue, and Verditer Blue is a excellent blue for snow and shadows in snow. So here now is the shadow onto some of the branches. And this is going to be negative painted. It's going to be negative painted, so the snow would be painted around, because the snow is there right now. This is the color of the snow, and it's darker. And I'm even going to make it darker than that yet, but this is like the middle tone of the snow and the light part of the snow. So let's go in here with the green now, and gotta go a little bit faster here, guys. I'm trying to make these half-hour videos, but if I go a little longer, that's okay. So here we're making it nice and dark and blue, and then we're going to go in here, and the tops usually are, the snow's already fallen off of them, and then I'm going to put it underneath the snow. So if there's snow that's going to be in here, I'm going to put it underneath, and so the green goes underneath the little round circles of the snow. And to let you know, I just got a new camera. I'll show you in a little bit. I just got a new camera because I've been taking lessons on giving you guys really good videos, good quality videos, and also videos that are very sharp. And this camera will be mounted up here, right above me, that's looking down on this, and I'll be able to adjust the focus and also adjust the zoom. I'll be able to zoom in on stuff, which I can't do right now. I'd have to just pick up my paper, and show you, and so hopefully we'll be able to do that with the camera, and it'll hopefully adjust really easily. It's supposed to be a really good camera for video, and so I'm kind of excited about that. I just got a booklet though how to use it, so it's going to be a while before we start using it, but hopefully we'll get really good videos coming up. 4K, by the way, 4K, which is 4 times more clear than HD. So if you're watching this in HD, it's going to be 4 times clearer. So that's gonna be kind of neat. And I figure I invest in that, and since I'm doing a lot of these videos lately, I thought I'd learn how to use it and also how to edit. Your internet is too slow, keeps buffering. Uh-oh. Well, it'll be up here, and I will also be putting it on. I always put these videos on YouTube also, so go watch it at YouTube later on. After it's done, I will download it and then put it on YouTube also. So there's a little darks, and see how the snow is now coming forward. And so, like I said, I do underneath the snow, and I know it's nothing like the photo, but I wanted it to be more snow on this whole scene, and I did that only because somebody had asked yesterday how to do more of the pine trees in snow. And so here, and if you want to do a little bit more of the pine tree, then just put more green in there. Now inside this green though, I don't want to make it just green, one solid color like this. So I'm going to go in here with some orange, put some orange into this green, and make it a different kind of color green, and then put that also inside these little spots that have green in them. Because the green is not all going to be the same. It's going to be different depending on how close to the sun it is, and here, put a little bit of orange into that area. And also, you know me, I like floating pigment inside any part that's wet. Any bit of green that's wet. So on the side here, you can maybe have a branch coming out where all the snow is no longer on there. And I'm just going to do this using the front of my brush. And I'm using with a small brush. I'm doing that thing where I just showed you guys. Again, you even do it with the small brush. You can go like this and just put it like this way. And so here we go, and we just go underneath here and just put all those little darks in. And darks are create shapes. Darks are what creates your image and just let you see what things are. The lights are just to determine what the colors are going to be, right? And so now I'm determining the lights and darks, and the darks create objects, and the objects then explain what it is that we're looking at. Before, it's just the color that we're looking at. Now it's the objects. And so now here we go on this side too, do this tree also. I'm going to do that trick I just showed you. I'm just going to go put it sideways. Take my brush, poke underneath the snow. I look for where the snow is, and I just do underneath it. You know, I have it drawn in. I have little clumps drawn in. Can you see that? I have little round circles. Let me show you. See those little round circles? So I go underneath them. And I go underneath it, and then I drew where the snow is going to be. I didn't even draw the tree. Well, I drew out some of the branches of the trees, too, that are sticking out like out here. I did that, and then I just come in here. And the tops, of course, a lot of times, if they were all snow-covered, then I would just do that with a dark blue. And I mean, I'll show you how to do one of those. Hold on. Let me just show you how to do. Let's say the whole tree was covered with just snow. Then it would just be a light blue that is a little bit darker than what I have there. Still the same kind of concept is that you're going around the snow and putting the dark parts underneath. Because even if it was just, here, let me just rinse my brush and show you what I mean. So let's say the top of the tree was covered, like totally covered in snow. So I take the darker darker blue purple, and I go in here and I just draw the snow completely with, like it was snow covered. So this is just darker. And so now that looks more like it's snow, right? It's just snow covered on top, and then you just make it rounded, and underneath would be where the pine needles would be. And so that's snow covered. And actually, I'm going to put this color inside some of my snow, on the side of my snow anyways. And I'm just going to go in there. And then see, I don't have the dark yet in there. So here I'm making my dark snow, the snow a little bit darker. So it's all blue, it's all verditer blue. And it's mixing with the green a little bit, so that's okay. Mix it with a little green, that's fine too. And usually snow on a tree is very soft and it's very flat. Underneath that snow pile, see now I'm actually drawing the round snow that's on the tree, a little bit darker so you can actually see. And then underneath that I will make the dark greens. So nice and snowy now with our dark green. And we can even put some orange in that green. That'll make it a little bit duller. It kind of makes it a brown. And so I'm just the green has a lot of blue in it, and then with orange it makes it, makes it a brown. Its complements mixed together makes it more of a brownish color. And again, drawing being number one, that will determine what it looks like, right? I mean, underneath here now, we can make this the dark underneath the snow. Because they're still going to be dark. I mean, these trees are dark. These trees are pine trees, and so they're dark. They're the darks in there. And you don't, it depends on how detailed you want to get. Some people do it where it's very loose and very, very open so that it doesn't look exactly like a photograph. And there's those people who like to make it look just like the photograph, and then some that just want to make an impression of the photograph. So impressionist, basically. So you decide, and how do you decide on that? A lot of times just paint. Just paint. Painting, you know, I just read a thing by guy who Eric Rhodes. He just put out, I listened to a lot of his emails, and on Sunday he does a email, and he's talking about, if you look at his email today, I have to think, it was about, oh gosh, I have to think about it and get back to you on that one. I'll put it in my newsletter. But I liked it a real lot. I was just listening to he was talking about, and he just wrote a real nice article. So, but anyways, paint a lot. One of the things was do it and paint a lot of, and you just learn so much. Here I'll put a little bit of dark brown, which I use a midtones brown to get my dark brown. It's a purpley brown. Brown and purple to me are almost the same thing, because it's like purple is a cousin of brown. And so I'm just going to put those pine trees, the stems on them, and they didn't come all the way down to the bottom. Somebody cut them, or all the deer ate all the branches on the bottom here. Especially on cedars, I know the deer love cedars. And let me go a little bit faster here so I can get this thing done. So you can see how to do pine trees. Pine trees are pretty simple. I actually find once you get to this kind of look, and you know how to do the snow first, and then you just get the dark underneath there, they're kind of funny. I make them up, and as you can see, I'm totally making up from what the photo is, because I've done them enough to know how to do them, and that's just practice. Just practice, and even don't do a painting like this. Just do a tree. Just do a pine tree. Make it a postcard. A lot of people love postcards with just a pine tree right in the middle. You don't have to even do a painting to learn how to do it. If you guys have any questions, I'll look up every once in a while. I'm sorry I haven't looked up in a little bit to see if you guys are asking any questions. Let me just look for a second. Well, thank you guys. If you have a question, just ask away. I will see if I can answer it. So I'm just going to put these darks in here. And again, don't be afraid of using black. I mean, a lot of people, watercolorists, were always taught never to use black, but sometimes if you want to make something really, really dark, black is a good substitute for it, and then just put a color with it. Don't use it by itself. A lot of times use it with another color, so it doesn't become so blah, just, blah, void of color. Though sometimes that's what you want. Sometimes you don't want a color, and you just want it to be very stark black so that it just perceived as being a really dark. Especially in sometimes when you need to have looking like a hole, and you really want to have the viewer look at that spot. So just go ahead and make it black. Let's see, a few more branches in here. There's a lot of snow right here. We're just gonna put a lot of snow in there. Let's use my big brush and do that thing where I just taught you. Just show you how I use it in the field here and on the painting. See, I'm just gonna go underneath and do the outer edge. See, I'm just bending my brush like I did back then. If you just join me, rewind, and which you can do, rewind it and look how I did these branches, how I bend the brush around the onto the paper. All right, and so now these trees will be reflected into the darks of the water, and so it'll be the color of the water, not the color of the tree first. First, you take the color of the water, which is going to be blue, and actually a little warmth of orange in there too. I just gotta get the green out of my brush and do more of a violety blue verditer. Let's get that in there. And so I'm going to do that with the look of the tree, because it's going to reflect as the color of the water first, and then we'll put some of the color of the tree in there. And it's pretty dark a lot of times because you're seeing through then. If it's not too, if it's still water, then you're going to see through the water. If it's moving like this, water's moving, then yes, you're not going to see as much. And so I'm going to make it a little bit gray, grayish blue. Yeah, if you have like a mirror image of it, that means that your water is very moving. You know, or if you're seeing it's really still, like if the water is really still, then it's like a mirrored image, and that's where you can use it and make it look exactly like what's above it. But Irving Shapiro always told us never to do that, never make it look like a mirror, because then you don't know if your painting is upside down or right side up. And I kind of agree with that, because you know this is water. You want to make it look like water, not like it's what's above it. So here too is a shadow of the rock that's covered with snow. Down here, we're just going to go back and forth. Remember I said before in the beginning that when you're doing water, your brushwork always goes horizontal. Always make it horizontal. It'll lay flat. And I'm just reflecting the shadow of the tree, the image of the tree, into the water as a kind of like a shadow reflection. I call it shadow reflections. This rock is going to be darker on this side. I still haven't shadowed the snow itself yet. I'm just doing the water. I'm just going to get in here with the darker parts, because you see in the picture it gets pretty dark down here, and so verditer blue, some violet, and make it pretty dark. And anywhere it's like the water is churning, and it's a churning water, and here I don't see any waterfall type of thing, but that's usually just white. There you just use white. And as I'm going away, I'm getting it darker. And I'm also getting less color, less warm down here. I'm going to make it cooler. A little bit of blue into that. Get a little blue in there. Darker. And this is part of my dark value pattern, right? I have to make this part dark because my value pattern says that this part is dark. Dark, and the trees are dark. And I still get, like I said, I still have to shadow my snow. But right now I'm just doing the big parts. Always work your big parts first before you get into the small, more and more details. Even though we had to do a detail in there, it's still part of a whole big area of dark that was, you know, that those are the biggest darks, is these little greenery that's coming out of there. So bigger darks, and that's my second step, right? Oh, I dipped into a little red. How did I do that? Okay. That's okay. I think it was just telling me that I need more dark orange through here. So we're just going to go through here, a bit more blue, ultramarine blue. Okay, now all I have to do is shadow the snow and I'll be done. And if you want, you could always put people in there or put something happening in there, which I didn't do. A lot of times you have to kind of figure that out before you start painting. So it could be nice to have like maybe somebody sitting there fishing, or just, you know, maybe an animal, maybe a deer is just sitting there coming out. That would be kind of nice. So now I'm going to go and shadow the snow. So I'm just going to take the same color I used for the snow and make it a little bit darker. So that was verditer blue, and so I'll take verditer blue, make it a little bit thicker, a little bit darker, and I also put some purple in there, right? And so I'm going to use a little bit of this purple and blue, and now shadow the snow. So the side away from this light, the light's sitting this side, so even on here I'm going to shadow away from the light, because those would have shadow. They're not all just one solid color. There would be a little bit of different color and all different lights and darks of the shadows. Like the part that's pointing a little bit more closer to the sun will be a little bit lighter. And this back here behind, because the sun, look how many trees are going to be there. So that's going to be pretty dark. And so I'm just going to darken that. And also by doing this, I'm softening some of the edges. If I go over it while it's a little damp, I'm softening edges, going to get a little watermark, which is cool. And then a little bit of violet through here to show there's the sun right there, so there'd be shadows, right? And there'd be shadows on the snow. Here I'm going to do a little bit of lavender in there, because there'd be parts lavender that's shadowed, even though it's warm back there. It changes really quickly. And if I missed something or I went over something, I didn't want to get that dark, then you can always go back with white paint, or just take and rub it back out. Because my paper here, the Stonehenge Aqua, you can really rub out really easily. And so I'm hitting the sides of the rock, of the snow-covered rocks. I'm going to hit the back side of them so that the front tops of them look like they're lit up, and then the sides are giving it shape, right? You're giving it a shape. You're giving the snow shape. And so look at this big area here. I'm going to go in here and get some more rocks inside the area. So there's going to be a rock right here, covered, and a rock right here, a boulder. I'm just going to do this by, so you're doing two things. You're creating one in front of it, and then one behind. And if I want to make this a soft edge, it just takes a little bit of water, and then just go over that real quickly, and that'll be soft, right? And so I'm doing two things. I'm creating the bottom rock and the side of the one in front of it, or the one behind it. Predator blue, and I'm going to get a little bit darker in here now. Little crevices, the side of the rock. I think you can go with let's go with the really dark blue. Watch this. We're going to go and cut in here a little bit and show really those deep little crevices inside the rocks, or usually where the water hits the bank. And I learned this from John Pike. If you look at his snow scenes, he is almost black right where the water hits the snow, in the shadow of the snow. And I'll do that in a second, because that's a super fine detail, darks. And that's the last step. The last step is detailed darks, meaning detailed darks, just what it states. And the only thing I want to do now is I noticed that this is the only orange tree, and that meaning a tree that has oranges, but a tree that's colored orange. I'm going to do this in the side. I'm going to make these branches orange here because they're pointing towards the sun. And so I'm going to give those a few little orange branches going on there. And a couple more branches there. A couple more orangeness back through here too. You can see through the tree. It's nice to look through the tree sometimes and seeing a little bit of the orange. Or maybe there's an orange tree behind. We're in the distance. That's almost too perfect. See how that angle goes up there? I don't like that. It's too much of a same angle right there. So one of those trees has to be a little bit taller. So I'm going to take a little bit of orange and green. I'm going to make this one a little bit taller to get rid of that look of the straight line. It's no good to have nice even. I like odd. Odd is always better. Odd numbers, odd shapes. Why the gloves? I have come to really love these gloves, and also that way you can see my hands, what they're doing. It's a little more contrasty, so I felt it's like you can actually see what my hand is doing compared to not having gloves on, and it also protects my hands. And I actually love these gloves. I love putting them on. Yeah, so that's a really good observation. Mark said that as I get, it gets brighter as I get darker, right? And so now I'm putting darker and dark parts in. That makes my light go lighter and lighter, right? And that's basically what I'm trying to achieve. And so now the last of it will be just putting my black, dark, really dark darks in there. So I'm going to take Prussian blue and black and just make it super dark. And watch this, right on the edge of this. And it's just going to make things really pop. When you want to make things pop, that's what you do, is you make this really dark darks. You know, you can put this in here. And this is the thing I learned from John Pike, is he uses this really dark to create his contrast to where you want to look. And look at how now it pops. Look at how it pops out, and it shows me the bottom of the where the snow stops and the water starts. So I'm just putting really dark darks in there, and then a lot of times you can put a little bit of the dark in here to show the reflection also. And it just gives a contrast where you want the viewer to look. Like, don't put it way back there, put it in the front here, And I'm just going to do it really, really dark in some of these spots. And you notice how as you put the darks in, it just starts to sparkle and it starts to show what it actually items are. You know, that's why you do that. That's why you save it for the end, because you're doing smaller and smaller, more and more detailed as you go along. And look at how and watch this water up front here right now. It's not dark, very dark, but watch when I put in these really super, super darks. And what I use black and ultramarine and Prussian blue. And it's almost black, but it has a little bit of hint of blue in it, and so that's what makes it so cool. And now I'm just going to make this little running water, and I'm just going to do these little reflections of the water. And the dark is the part that you're seeing reflecting from up top. These little darks up here, they're reflecting into the water then. And actually, see how I can see it on a little angle. I got to do my lighting different here in the studio. So here is my dark reflections, and that will be it once I get this done. No more. And even the trees, I can put some really dark darks in there. This is my favorite stage of the painting, is getting these detailed darks in, because then it starts looking like something. And for those artists that think that your painting has to look beautiful the whole way through, you have to stop thinking that way, because you really cannot make it look good until this part. You know, to make it look really, people who are beginners always feel like they look at their painting like in this beginning stages, and they get so discouraged that it's not looking good right from the beginning. It's never going to look good. It's got to go through its ugly stages. It's got to go through the ugly. That's what Irving Shapiro always told us. It's got to go through its uglies to get to the beauty. And the darks are the third step. And so that's the 3-step process. So just get some more waves down here, and we're done for the day. And then go out, and you can try it if you're in a snow-covered area. Unfortunately, we don't have any snow here in Illinois right now. But being that it's getting close to Christmas and getting close to the holidays, I tend to want to do some of these paintings with snow. So warm background, full cool foreground. Always works really well on snow scenes. And then for those of you that want to use white and don't feel bad about using white, this is a good time now. And I'm going to just show you. Like, what you can do is you can make it snow for one. You can actually make it snow. And it would have been nicer to have my sky a little bit darker. If you look a little closer, I think, you know, it's not as dark as this over here. I could have went darker with my blues, but it all depends on how dark you want to make things. You know, I could have gone definitely darker with a lot of the things, and that's my first wash of this painting. So if I were to do this again, I would make those blues a little bit darker. I'd make my sky a little bit darker. But don't try to fix your painting that you're working on unless you really don't care about the painting being finished and stuff, and just work on it. But you want to go through the process of making it good the first step, the first time. And a lot of times if you're doing, like let's say this is a commission, do a little study, a small one first, and get the look of what you need to do. And then go on there second wash, and maybe that'll work better the second time you do it. Or when you do it for real, when you're doing the actual painting. So I think this could have been a little bit darker blues, but I'm never going to do it on this painting. I'm going to do it on another one. I don't try to fix my paintings. I don't like to fix. I like to do it right from the get-go. And that's what I like to teach, too. I don't want you to teach you how to make mistakes and then make them better. I want you to do them right the first time. And then, I mean, you can always fix things, but, you know, that's just not a way of doing it right the first time. Do it right the first time, and if it didn't, do it again. Try it again and again and again. Oh, I was going to show you how to use white. So now with white, I'm just going to take and dip into solid white. And my white's kind of dirty, so what I do is when my white is really dirty, I just go over with a little bit of white, take a piece of paper towel, and I just dab into that area, pick it up. Now it's solid white again. Because it's just covered up with a little bit of white, but white gets kind of tarnished really easily. So I just go over, and now I'm taking and really getting in a lot of white. And then I'm just going to go in here and hit some spots where I feel that I lost the light, or I want to hit it shiny. I want to make it shiny, like it's And also, it's good to have 2 pots of water, because now my water is, if you look at my water here, it's pretty dirty. And so that will affect your white. So get yourself another pot of white or water, clean water, and use that to rinse your brush. And here I'm going to go in now and just hit the sides that's closer to the sun. And that'll sparkle it. That'll make it sparkle. I mean, there is some already sparkle in the water that I left the white paint, but now watch this. I'm just going to throw a little bit of reflections into the water down here. Let me just use my rigger brush. The rigger brush always holds a lot of, the rigger brush holds a lot of water. It's a long brush, holds a lot of water and a lot of pigment, so you don't have to constantly dip into the white. And so I find it to be an awfully wonderful brush for making lines, long, thin lines, and you don't have to constantly go back in and replenish your brush. So look at how I can just go down here and just do this little bit of sparkle, and little dots, sparkle, and little lines that go back and forth. And since this is, sometimes you don't have to use white, but you can use like a light blue, but since this is opaque, but it doesn't end up being as opaque as I'd like it to be, the white, and you can see through, so it'll not quite be as bright as you want it to be. And that's a good thing, because then it'll just pick up a little bit of the what's underneath it. And that's what transparent watercolor is all about, picking up the colors underneath. So nice little. Here I'm putting on the top of things. See, I'm just lightening things up a little bit on the sides, and just make things sparkle a little bit more. Just a little sparkle here and there. Little dots. There's a lot of sparkle in water when it's moving and the sun's directly on it. And here the sun, I'm going to put a little bit brighter for the sun. I have a pencil line there, but I'm just going to take it and make it nice and bright right there. So the sun is coming right down through the center here. Make it a happy little painting with happy little trees. Courtesy of Bob Ross. All right, I think that's enough, guys. I'm gonna just do a couple more little dots down here, and we'll call it a day. So hopefully you have a wonderful Sunday. And I think that is about it. All right, let me take the tape off and show you what it is. And tape is a little bit hard to get up with these gloves. No, it's not. There we go. And come to my YouTube channel. That's where I will have this again. I'll download it to YouTube if you want to go to YouTube. It will still be on Facebook for forever too. It'll be in there. So you rewatch it. And if you want to practice trees, pine trees with snow, there you go, guys. All right, so until Thursday when we do a paint along. And this week we're probably going to do something very close to this. This coming Thursday, it's going to be not water. I think it's going to be some pine trees. We'll see, but I think it's going to be close to this kind of scene that we'll be doing. So until Thursday, we'll see you then. Bye bye.